right, welcome back, Gulf Coast. Welcome back, America. Welcome back, world. You are in the Oval Office of Gulf Coast Talk Radio, and yes, we are at the top of the second hour, and yes, we are broadcasting live, and yes, we do have Mike Zullo on the line with us, who's going to be in the studio via this amazing invention called a telephone. He's going to be in here for the whole second hour with me, because Mike Zullo, this birth certificate thing, the more they try to push it down, the bigger and bigger and bigger it gets. I mean, it's just squishing out from underneath their fingers. It's falling over onto the floor. It's oozing out underneath the doors, and they can't stop it, and they're going out of their minds. But it's because Donald Trump won, and the deep state is going down, and people are getting ready to talk, and they're trying to cover themselves, Mike. That's what I think. What do you think, Mike Zullo? Welcome.
Well, Carl, I think it's more like a chia pet. It's finally starting to grow some hair.
Yeah,
and it's going to grow to the place and point where nobody can cut it off anymore.
Yeah.
This is going to surface. The truth about this thing is going to surface.
Yes. And not only are you and Arpaio and the people that you've got socked away that have all this information and hidden in archives and vaults and everything, but not only are you guys sitting upon what did Arpaio say one time? A garage full of documents. I mean, not only
or a truckload or something
like that. Yeah. Not only are you guys sitting upon a mountaintop of forensic information and affidavits and oh my gosh, I mean, it would take us an hour to describe all that, but not only that, but you and I were talking offline. We talk about this all the time, and we've talked about it here over the air. But not only that, but people are getting ready to flip. I mean, see, Mike, I'm convinced they thought Hillary was going to win. You know, you heard that clip in the first 30 minutes where Hillary Clinton is dogging Donald Trump in one of the debates, and they just knew the fix was in. And if she had won, Mike, you and I would probably be in jail. The birth certificate issue would be burned to the ground. We would never hear of that again. The deep state would have never been exposed. The fake news would have never been exposed. I mean, think of where we would be today if Hillary Clinton had won. But they didn't, and now people are going to start flipping. Don't you think, Mike?
I absolutely agree. I think they're very worried. I think things are getting closer and closer to Obama. I think they're concerned with these numerous FBI officials now that want to come out as whistleblowers. You know, if this issue raises its head during the course of this investigation, somebody's going to look into it.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm convinced of it. The things you know, the things I know, and then, of course, stuff we're watching in the news, I'm convinced that this thing is going to blow wide open. Maybe sooner rather than later, but even if it's into the second term of Trump, it's going to rear its ugly head. It's too foundational to everything else that we see happening. Listen, we can philosophize all day long, but we got some really cool stuff to talk about. Here's where we're going to go, folks. I'm going to ask Mike Zullo to tell us about this new insight of the Congressional Research Service. All the way back to 2009, they were trying to set this whole thing up. I'm going to get him to opine on that as long as he wants. And then we're going to talk about this article from Real Clear Politics of 5 days ago about the wanton destruction of records in the National Archives by Obama and Clinton and Lynch. And the Real Clear Politics published this just a few days ago. Then, in this hour, we're going to talk about Yahoo Day on the day the IG report comes out about the Obama birth certificate. And you know, Mike, what was missing from that article? Any mention of the 5-year criminal forensic investigation and 3 press conferences by the 4th largest sheriff's office in the nation. None of that was even mentioned in that article.
I know, they're starting to kind of hurt my feelings.
I know. But see, the thing is all this stuff is tied together, Mike. You know it, I know it. Most of our listeners know it because they've been with us for years. The new folks that are just tuning into this, folks, you're going to get an education today. It's going to blow you away. So, Mike, let you start talking about the Congressional Research Service. Explain to our people what that is, and then what you have come across and what information has been relayed to you by officials, and just tell us about this and how it's connected to this whole birth certificate debacle.
Well, Carl, if your listeners may recall, they may not, but a couple of years back, I think I made some statements on your radio show saying that I will collect information from anybody, even if it isn't germane to what I'm doing, and I will archive that.
Right.
Because you never know at some point in time if it becomes relevant. It may not be relevant at the time,
right,
but circumstances change.
Yeah.
Well, back in 2012, I was given some articles written by a gentleman by the last name of DeMaio. This came from Sharon Rondo in the Post and email.
Mm-hmm.
This individual wrote some articles referencing Vattel and the whole eligibility controversy. And at that time, in 2012, that was not my mandate.
Right.
And very intricate. It's obviously done by a legal mind. And I just kind of put it in the back burner, didn't have any relevance to what I was doing. But now, with the evolution of things and the revealing of the deep state and the goings-on and the shenanigans that have happened not only in the FBI and the National Archives and the stonewalling of records, there's some information here that actually is germane to what we were doing. Back in 2009, again in 2011, and again in 2016, 3 requests were made of the Congressional Research Service. This is the entity that does research for Congress.
Yes.
And from unidentified individuals, I don't know who has made the request, but they needed to render on 3 different occasions an opinion on eligibility as it relates to natural-born citizen.
Mm-hmm.
All 3 of these are authored by the same individual, a gentleman by the name of Jack Mescal, an Obama appointee. But again, we don't know who's making the requests. In all 3 of these reports, the CRS, the Congressional Research Service, came to the same conclusion, a wrong conclusion in my opinion, but they came to the same conclusion, that a person just being born on U.S. soil, regardless of parental lineage, is considered a natural-born citizen just by the mere fact that he was born here.
Mm-hmm.
And actually goes a little further, where a citizen born abroad by any one U.S. parent, mother or father, anywhere in the world could be considered a natural-born citizen. And that's interesting because if your audience remembers, in our very first press conference, we came up with a document out of Hawaii in 1982 that was permitting the Department of Health in Hawaii to accept birth certificates from overseas made on mere representation by those living in another country and claiming as Hawaii as that child's place of birth.
Right.
So that's interesting. But this gets even worse. This is actually going to start to point to a purposeful misleading of Congress. In 1939, there was a case called Perkins v. Alger. It was a Supreme Court case. And during that hearing, the judges asked for what's called a letter of advice. And that was authored by a then Attorney General, Edward Pierpont, in a matter regarding an immigration issue and citizenship of a German immigrant by the last name of Steinkrawler. In that case, and it's correctly cited in this letter of advice, it points to the fact that the gentleman immigrated to the United States in 1848. Subsequently, 5 years later, he was naturalized a United States citizen. Mm-hmm. And in the following year, he had a son who was born in St. Louis. So according to the letter of advice, and rightfully determined, because the father was a naturalized citizen, now a full-fledged citizen of the United States, his son being born a year later on U.S. soil would then be considered a natural-born citizen. Mm-hmm. And we don't have any issue with that whatsoever.
Nope, I don't either.
However, in 2009, and again in 2011, the CRS has asked the same question. And here's what they do. They take what I just read to you, and they write that verbiage, but they exclude the most important part of it, where it says, was naturalized in 1984. Uh-huh. Their version leads the leads Congress to believe that this individual immigrated in 1848 and a year later had a son. There's no mention of the father being naturalized.
Yeah.
Now, in their conclusion, that son is still able to claim natural-born status and become president of the United mm-hmm. States if he wanted to.
Mm-hmm. So they're basically setting up the narrative of Barack Obama.
Exactly. They do it to justify Obama's narrative. Mm-hmm. They do it again in 2011. Now, how this works? Coming right before his second term, what's going on in 2011? Everybody is pushing, where's the birth certificate?
Right.
And they go out and they omit the same language again.
Yeah.
Here's where they make a mistake. In 2016, another request is made of them for the same research. Only this time, they don't omit the language. They put the whole citation in there. But they still come to the wrong conclusion.
Because who are they propping up now?
Well, here's what I think. I don't know if there's somebody on the Democratic side at that point they were propping up, or this question was asked because of Rubio or Ted Cruz.
Yes.
But here's what they did. They used this opportunity to right the wrongs committed of the past memos, with this being the most original memo, and using this to cover up the fact that they omitted the language the first time.
Yes.
Because they still magically come to the same conclusion.
Same conclusion, yeah. And
Now,
it's kind of a day late and a dollar short. Go ahead.
Well, think about this, Carl. In 2009 and 2011, they've misled Congress with a conclusion. They want to make it sound like the Supreme Court back in 1939 had determined that you could just be born on American soil, absent of perennial lineage, and become president of the United States because you're natural born. That is incorrect. Completely incorrect. And they wanted Congress to believe that. And here's what you have. You have a whole Democratic aisle that's open arms waiting for this kind of information.
Oh, yeah.
And you have a Republican Party who did not want to venture near this.
Yes.
It gives everybody
Gives them
the
coverage.
false foundation to stand on and leave the whole issue alone.
And Mike, you and I talked about this, and then along comes Rubio, and along comes Cruz, and you say, yeah, but they're Republicans. Why would they want them? Oh, because if they won and we accepted it, then Obama's home free. Because they would say, look, you guys let your Republican candidates skate under this, so you have nothing else to say about Obama. They were going to win either way.
Exactly, and this was done. Look, here's something that, if you're watching the news and everything that's going on now, Republican, Democrat, I don't really care what you are, but here's a method of operation that you start to see with these people. They will commission a study if it benefits them, and they will use that study if it leads you down the primrose path as the gospel itself and stand on it and give you every reason why you're wrong and they're right.
Yeah.
And what comes to my mind on this is this new push on the Second Amendment to get the CDC involved and determine that guns are now a health epidemic.
Yeah.
That's a setup.
Yes.
That's a setup.
Absolutely.
Just like they set this up.
Yeah, absolutely. Mike, listen, we've got to take a time out. We've gone over just a little bit, but when we come back, we're going to wrap this up with the CRS because that's fascinating considering everything that was going on, where they were headed, but where we are now. See, it's a new day. There's a new sheriff in town, right, Mike?
Yeah. Maybe he'll be in the Senate.
Yeah, maybe so. Maybe so. Sheriff Joe Arpaio, Senator Arpaio. But anyway, so we'll come back. We're going to talk about the national certificate book coming out by the Obama administration. Yahoo News reported on it yesterday. So much to talk about, Mike, as soon as we come back. Folks, don't go anywhere. Mike Zullo's in the house with us. All right, we are back. Mike Zullo's in the house. And so Mike, let's do this. Let's... I'm looking at my computer, Mike, and it says, we've got updates ready for you. This is Windows 10. So let me just collect. It says another time. So let me click that. And what that means is...
I will shut you down.
That's right. They're going to shut me down. Brother, oh, my gosh. I could get real conspiratorials here and say it's because of what we're talking about. But yeah, I'm not really going to. No. This is Windows 10. It's so typical, man. Right in the middle of a show, they want to do an update. Okay, but Mike, in the first segment, the first 30 minutes of the show, I played a little clip. It's 45 seconds. Mallory, go ahead and get that thing queued back up. We're going to play it again, folks. Let me tell you what it is. Hillary Clinton, in 2016, she and Donald Trump were coming down to the wire. It was going to be one of them. They were in a debate. Hillary Clinton sticks her finger in Donald Trump's chest, metaphorically speaking, and because if she really did it, she'd have had her finger snapped off at the root. But she metaphorically stuck her finger in Donald Trump's chest at the debate and said, okay, so when you lose, are you going to accept the results of the election? And then she goes on to say, because make no mistake, What Donald Trump does now, if he doesn't accept the results of the election, that's a threat to our democracy, not his democracy. And then she goes on to say, and we know the difference between being a leader and being a dictator. If he doesn't accept, well, now, Mike, we know that she didn't accept and she lost. But the deal is, Mike, why was she so arrogant? How could it be that she just knew she was going to win? Folks, listen to this little 45-second clip, because this is a couple of days after the debate when she challenged Donald Trump. She's now talking to her audience at a rally, and listen to what Hillary Clinton says. And then I'm going to ask Mike Zullo to weigh in. All right, Mallory, play it.
On Wednesday night, Donald Trump did something no other presidential nominee has ever done. He refused to say that he would respect the results of this election. Now, make no mistake, by doing that, he is threatening our democracy. He is basically saying, hey, we've been around 240 years, and we've always had peaceful transitions, no matter who won or who lost. Look, if you lose an election, I've lost elections, you don't feel very good the next day, do you? But we know in our country the difference between leadership and dictatorship, right?
All right, so Mike Zullo, so basically with her own words, she has said that she is a threat to democracy and that she is a dictator, because not only did she not accept her defeat, but Mike, that's what the whole Mueller investigation is about. That's what the whole FBI texting is about we're going to stop him, we're going to stop him, we're going to stop him. That's what the whole deep state is about. That's what the whole snowflake meltdown is about. That's what the whole mainstream media meltdown is about, because they just knew she was going to win, Mike.
Carl, if you go back and you remember when we were involved with that CIA informant, Dennis Montgomery, he had given us information, and I believe it to be credible information, that elections had been tampered with the use of CIA computer systems.
Yep.
And I think the fix was in. I think it's evident. I remember that clip of Bill Clinton jumping up like a 5-year-old with the prospect of his wife winning that night. Whatever intervention it was, I don't know if it was heavenly or something else. Whatever plan they had didn't work out. It went awry.
Yep. Yeah.
And these people, forget about the glass ceiling. That ceiling fell right on her face. She wasn't expecting this, and that's why she was basically incoherent for 24 hours.
Exactly. And that's why she was so arrogant that night when she was demanding that Donald Trump accept the results, because she, in her mind, the results were already in. She was going to win. And she was basically trying to inoculate the country in case Donald Trump tried to protest the results, and then she could go back and say, don't you remember? He said that he would accept it. That's what she was trying to do. They knew she was going to win because the fix was in. The deal is, though, the Lord God himself intervened, and I don't know exactly how it was all done, but at the last minutes, Donald Trump pulled it out and won it, and the whole system melted down. The deep state, the Washington elite, the mainstream media, Congress, the courts, the Clintons, the Obamas, the Bushes, they melted down, brother.
Well, Carl, I mean, look, we don't know the magnitude of any of this. If you look at that IG's report that everybody's been waiting for, everything is mitigated in that. Everything is watered down.
Yeah.
And it's just like the Obama certificate. Nobody wants to deal with the impending crisis that this is going to cause.
Yeah.
So they're trying to just kind of sweep this slowly out of public purview, put it out under the rug, and let's move on from this. It isn't all that bad. Well, that's not the truth.
Yeah.
This is hellacious. And the actions of that woman, the actions of that campaign, the actions of Obama, the actions of the NSA, CIA, FBI, it's all going to come out. And everybody that tried to go to Congress, tried to go to the FBI with this birth certificate issue, that door was closed from the day he picked up his hand.
Yep.
That was closed.
Yep.
And that was all done, deep state activity, and you're seeing it now.
And I think the reason it's all going to come out, Mike, is because they forget. They have been trashing, slimeballing, and crucifying Donald Trump ever since he raised his hand to take the oath of office. And now they're begging for mercy. And Donald Trump isn't going to give them mercy. I really don't think he will. I think he's going to push this until all the slimeballiness is exposed. And I think in the middle of it, the whole birth certificate thing's going to come out. It has to. It's the foundation.
Well, Carl, think about this. You have the President of the United States. There's one thing about Donald Trump. He's not going to forget when he's been telling you something and everybody's telling him he's wrong.
Right.
Right? He comes out and he keeps saying, I've been telling you this, I've been telling you that, I've been telling you this. That birth certificate, trust me, I know from inside sources that has never left his memory bank.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. They're terrified of it, which explains the Yahoo report yesterday when the IG thing was released and the new book coming out by the Obama administration about, of all things, the birth certificate. You know, that thing that doesn't matter, that thing that's all settled. Yeah. They're writing a book about it, Mike. Listen, I hear the music. We're going to have to take a time out. When we come back, we're going to talk about National Archives and the book and Yahoo. Mike Zullo's in the house. Don't go anywhere, folks.
Repeat after me. Barack Obama was born in the United States of America. One more time. Repeat after me. Barack Obama was born in the United States of America. And even if he was not, there is nothing you can do. If you say anything, you are a racist. This has been a friendly reminder from your official government brainwashing service. Atlas has now shrugged.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Mike Zullo, do you remember that, man? That's an oldie and a goodie from the past.
I know I did. I'm dating myself.
I know. I love that. We played that on Freedom Friday years ago, back when you and I first met, because that's, just the fact that you guys would dare to do a criminal investigation. You were called racist and birthers and conspiracy theorists, and Sheriff Arpaio was trashed and marginalized. You were trashed and marginalized because I dared to put you guys on the air. Brother, the attack came against me. And man, can you imagine if Hillary Clinton would have won? Oh, my gosh. But here we are. It's a new day. Make America great again. The chips, the dominoes are falling. The curtain's being pulled back. IG report number 1 came out yesterday. IG report, by the way, number 2 is coming out in a few weeks, Mike. I don't know if you saw that today, but there's a 2.0 on this, and they said it's even worse than the first one. The rats are scrambling. The lights being turned on. The roaches are looking for the dark corners. I really think dominoes are going to fall. People are going to start squealing. The FBI, there's people getting ready to be fired. Comey's looking like a fool and an idiot. He might have an orange jumpsuit on before all of this is over. And I know, you and I both know what we know about this birth certificate. And I'm telling you, Mike, or to our audience, I really believe this is foundational to a lot of this stuff, because Donald Trump in office, Mueller investigation, trying to get him out, deep state trying to get him out, mainstream media trashing him every day. Mike, it doesn't matter. I mean, he just saved the world from nuclear war, and they hate his guts.
I know. It's incredible. It's incredible.
It is. So anyway, Mike, so let's do this, Mike. I want to key our audience in what you and I know, this Real Clear Politics article. They're a relatively leftist publication. They're quoted by mainstream media all the time, realclearpolitics.com. Almost nightly they're quoted by MSNBC or CNN. There's an article that was published 5 days ago, Mike, 5 days ago. All right, this is not something from years and years and years. 5 days ago. It's called Crisis at the National Archives. Mike, I'm going to read one paragraph for our audience. And I'm telling you, audience, if you haven't heard this, I mentioned this in the first 30 minutes of this program, hour and a half ago. If you have not heard this, you need to be seated. Because I'm not making this up. You can go to freedomfriday.com, Gallups on Facebook.com. It's linked there. You can read it yourself, or just Google Real Clear Politics Crisis at National Archives. It's written by Thomas Lipscomb. Here is one paragraph, Mike Zullo. Listen to this. Recent congressional testimony has made it clear that the Obama administration itself engaged in the, quote, wholesale destruction and the loss of tens of thousands of government records covered under the National Archives Act, as well as the intentional evasion of government records recording systems by engaging in private email exchange. Former President Obama, former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, former Attorney General Lynch, and several EPA officials have been named as the offenders. Then it goes on to say former federal prosecutor Andrew McCarthy called it, quote, an unauthorized private communication system for official business for the patent purpose of defeating federal law. In other words, all of these people that were named were purposely breaking federal law, engaging in the wholesale destruction of tens of thousands of government records, and they named Obama, Hillary Clinton, and Attorney General Lynch. Gee! I wonder what they were up to. Have you ever had any experience with the National Archives and not being able to find records about Obama?
Yeah, of course, Carl. Don't you know? You go to the National Archives, you look at some microfilm reels, you're looking for immigration cards of people flying in to the United States in the month of August, and lo and behold, the microfilm reel containing that month of August from the date of August 1st to August 10th is completely black and blank and picks up again on August 11th. Purportedly, Obama's birth date is August 4th, and the acceptance date of his birth certificate, purported birth certificate, at the state of Hawaii is August 8th.
Mm-hmm.
Now, why? And then when we asked questions at the National Archives, we were eventually told that they could no longer speak with us. We would have to go through their attorneys.
So they lawyered up.
Yeah, I guess, the head librarian over there felt she needed a lawyer because I'm asking her, how could this be blank and 685 other reels? There's not a glitch.
Yeah.
How could that be?
Yeah, and it just happens to be the dates when Barack Obama, if he was born in Kenya, those would have been the dates that he was flown into the United States, that we could have proven that all of that shenanigans was going on, but those dates, and only those dates, were missing from the National Archives.
Well, and then that would actually make the birth date of August 4th actually the arrival date.
Yeah.
Not a birth date.
Yeah.
So, there's so much. There's so much. You go to the selective service card. The selective service card was another issue. We really are convinced the selective service card was another fraudulently created document. We went all through that in 2012.
Uh-huh.
And when we were pressuring selective service and requesting to come down and visibly see the card, after a month or so, they got back to us and told us they no longer have the card. The card has been destroyed. Everything has been put on microfilm.
Uh-huh.
Well, it's really not that difficult to go create a reel of microfilm and insert another card, and this is what it looks like, and then you destroy everything.
Yeah. And so, Mike, go ahead, you go ahead.
Well, think about this, Carl. The National Archives now, and this report that's coming out, number one, who's allowing this?
Yeah.
Who's allowing them to go in there and destroy documents, government privileged documents, right? Who's allowing it to go on? Why would you be doing that? If you're doing everything upright, you don't destroy a thing. But it seems that side of the aisle, they're into destroy and deny.
Yeah. And
if
how
you can't find any evidence, we just deny it because you can never prove it.
And how could Real Clear Politics so adamantly attach Obama, Clinton, and Lynch's name to it and say they destroyed it directly?
Because that's going to end up being a government either employee or official
who snitched,
that wants to leak this out there in the hopes there is a special prosecutor or some kind of real official investigation into those shenanigans, and that's out there for them to pursue.
Yeah. So, Mike, this kind of helps to answer the question that people have asked you for years. Well, why didn't you guys do anything with all that information you had years ago? This should have been brought up. But again, we can say, who were we going to take it to? The National Archives was being destroyed. The DOJ was owned by Loretta Lynch. The FBI was owned by James Comey. The Congress was owned by the deep state. The media was owned by the deep state. The White House was involved in purposely destroying records and circumventing federal laws, creating fake documents. I mean, who are you going to take the information to? You guys, you and Sheriff Arpaio had your hands cuffed.
Well, Carl, you'll remember, I mean, we discussed this even on the radio, the amount of pressure that I came under, the false accusations from being told I was doing this for fame and fortune, doing this because I was making all kinds of money doing this, which is absolutely absurd, to Arpaio and I should be arrested for not going and bringing this to some judge.
Yeah.
We're sitting over there at that point in time. We didn't know about the deep state. There really was no deep state, except in some far-right conspiracy-minded stuff, which turned out not to be that far-right anymore. But we didn't know anything about it. We just knew something was terribly wrong.
Yeah. Yeah.
Terribly wrong. And when we deliberated what to do with this, we went down the list. There was nowhere to take it.
Yeah.
So the move here was to sit on it and wait.
Yep. And lo and
still waiting.
And lo and behold, how could we have ever dreamed or even hoped that the man that was responsible for getting that fake birth certificate put up there, Donald Trump, would actually run for president, would walk through a field of 17 deep state candidates, or at least most of them were, probably all of them weren't, but most of them were, and would actually win the White House, and he's the one that started the whole thing, and now he's pushing the buttons and turning the knobs and pulling back the curtain and exposing fake news, deep state. The dominoes are falling, firing the FBI, doing IG reports. People are scrambling. The rats are scrambling. And people are saying, well, this birth certificate, there's nothing to it. Oh, just wait, folks.
Carl, let me tell you this. Look, I'm going to make this really simple for everybody to understand. That whole birth narrative is nothing more than a story.
Yep.
This birth certificate is not a birth certificate. I've said that a million times. But let me point something out to you. There is no corroborative evidence that Barack Hussein Obama's father was indeed Barack Obama. There is no corroborated evidence that Stanley Ann Dunham was in fact his mother. There are no eyewitness accounts. There are no hospital records. You have a narrative, a story that we're being told, and the manufacturing of direct evidence, a phony PDF file to bolster that narrative.
Yeah.
So that's what they're doing. There is nothing here that you can corroborate. There's no documentation in any hospital that this birth has taken place.
Yes, and Donald Trump knows all this. Yeah.
There's no eyewitness.
Yeah.
There's no baby picture. There's nothing.
I know. And Donald Trump knows all of it, and he got crucified during the election for it, and he was called a liar and an idiot. But the problem is he won. And so now he will turn the tables. I'm positive. Mike, we've got to take a time out right here. But when we come back, we're going to jump into this thing about the IG report being released yesterday. And on the same day, it's announced that a brand new book is coming out of the Obama administration, the story of Obama's birth certificate and the birth of fake news. That's what I'm going to let you talk about that and unpack that, Mike, because wow, what a coinka-dinky, right?
Yeah, sure it is.
Yeah. We'll talk about that as soon as we come back, folks. This birth certificate thing won't die, and it's not because of me and Mike Zullo. It's because of the left, and there's a reason they won't let it die. We'll be back right after this timeout, folks. All right, folks, welcome back. Welcome back. So glad that you're with Mike Zullo. Mike Zullo. So on the day the IG report is released yesterday, Yahoo News comes up with this huge article titled, "New Book Details the Inside Story of Obama's Birth Certificate and the Birth of Fake News." And they try to turn the whole fake news narrative around on anybody who dared to question the birth certificate. So I'm looking at this article, Mike, and I want you to do most of the speaking, so I'm trying to get this done. But I'm looking at this article. There's almost 5,000 comments. I'm watching them come in real time. The vast majority of them support what you and Arpaio have done, the work you've done. They understand, the vast majority. On Yahoo News, This extremely liberal, yet the vast majority of people, and here's one example from a guy named Daniel. It comes in, it says, this is hilarious. The IG report came out 9 hours ago and was released to the public 6 hours ago, and Yahoo has a story about the birth certificate? Question mark. And then you keep reading, and they talk about how, hey, Hillary Clinton campaign started this. Hey, this is ridiculous. The birth certificate. And then they start talking about, well, his own publishers were saying he was from Kenya. I mean, nobody is saying, yeah, those crazy birthers. The only people that say that is this article, Mike. Do you smell a rat with this article coming out on the day the IG report is released?
I smell fear.
Yeah, me too.
I think it's fear. I think if you look at what that article is, and if your folks that are listening, take the minute to read it, you know what it's doing? It's setting up another phony narrative.
Yep.
And based on that article, I'm going to tell you, Carl, I always had suspicions, but based on that article now and the destruction of records going on in the National Archives, I don't believe any copy of this birth certificate, whether it's real or fake, was ever officially in the White House.
Yep.
I don't think it was ever there. I don't think it was ever presented anywhere. And Dan Pfeiffer, if you remember a couple shows back, I was talking about the transcript that I was reading of that presser, where they handed out the copies of the birth certificate, and that one reporter is making the comment, you haven't shown us the real one?
Yes.
You've shown us a copy. Even there, they had never released or shown any reporter the real, quote, document.
Right.
The only one purportedly was Savannah Guthrie, and we have no idea what that thing really is. But that's the story. But to hold a press conference, and if you listen to how or read how Pfeiffer is describing this, how this event was supposed to go down, you would have walked in with the real certificate and said, here's the president's birth certificate. I've given you all the copy of it, case closed.
Yeah. Yeah.
But they don't do that because they could not legally bring it in there.
Right.
Once they brought it in there, it was going to have to get archived.
Yes. And not only that, but this article, what it's about some dude who was an insider in the Obama administration, this Pfeiffer dude, Dan Pfeiffer, former assistant senior advisor to President Obama. He's writing this book, and he's trashing Donald Trump for even bringing it up. He's calling everybody race. I mean, it's just typical left-wing garbage. There's quotes from the book. I was reading some of those quotes, and the grammar is horrific. He misspelled some people's names. I mean, and this is printed by Yahoo News. They don't even know that there are mistakes in it. And he's just trashing this whole, what he calls birther movement, and he's bemoaning the fact of how it just plagued the Obama administration and whatever they did. But here's the deal, Mike. If you were the president, if I was the president, and people were saying, oh, Gallups isn't even from here, Zullo isn't even from here, Mike Zullo, if you were the president, if you were elected, and they started saying that about you, how long would it take you to prove, and what steps would you take to show the nation, look, you don't have to worry about this. Of course I'm from here. How quickly would it take?
If I had to get on the phone myself and send somebody down to the hospital I was born in, Vital Statistics Office, get me a copy of my birth certificate.
Now,
I would put a camera on that thing from the minute they left to the time they came back in. I would have walked it into the White House. I would have picked it up, and I said, folks, this is mine.
Yes. And any sheriff in any investigation from a federal agency or a legitimate investigative agency like the fourth largest sheriff's office in the nation, they said, you know what, we still don't believe this. We want to see the microfilms. What would you have said?
Absolutely. I want to see them myself.
Yep, exactly. But instead, what did the Obama administration do? They shut it down. They hid everything. They lied. They started destroying records. They started packing the courts, threatening people, shutting down news agencies, and now they're writing a book saying, we don't understand why everybody didn't believe us.
Well, it's for every reason I just told you. There's no corroboration behind it.
Yep.
All right, it doesn't take you, 3 years to finally come out with your birth certificate.
Right.
I mean, it was a simple document to obtain. It doesn't take a rocket scientist or a $1,000 an hour lawyer to look at the statutes in Hawaii or pick up the phone and go, hey, I'm the president. How can I get a copy of my birth certificate?
Right. Right.
I mean, this is ridiculous. This whole thing is a phony narrative. I said it from the beginning. And what Pfeiffer is saying in this thing, he wants you to believe that Obama himself wanted to go on stage with that document.
Yes.
And they told him not to. That's a load of nonsense.
Yes.
Here's what may have happened. It's speculation, but here's what I believe happened. They got the phony document, and he did want to go out there. The lawyer was smart enough to know you can't take that kind of responsibility.
That's right. You can't have that in your hand. That makes you a lawbreaker.
Right. That's right. That's what I think happened. So what Pfeiffer is peddling here is a load of garbage.
Yep.
This is garbage. These people think you're an idiot.
Yep. See, Obama could not be seen holding that certificate saying, this is mine. That would have made him absolutely the criminal in this thing. Now he can use plausible deniability. And when it finally is proven, I mean, he could say, of course, at this point, people are going to blow the whistle on him. But back years ago, he could have said, oh, my gosh, I had no idea. They've been lying to me since I was. Now, Pfeiffer wants to come out and give him that cover.
Well, Carl, go back a little bit. Go to those congressional research reports that go back to 2009. Remember the CIA guy, Montgomery?
Yeah.
He was telling me that they were accessing vital statistic records
Yep.
in Hawaii.
Yep.
They were doing that in 2007, 8, and 9.
Yep.
Right? They were looking into this guy. They had to figure out they had a big problem.
Yep.
And they had to make this problem go away. And look, I don't care what anybody tells you. There has never been a professional forensics entity to come against us.
No, I know
All
it.
these little keyboard warriors out there, they are meaningless to me.
I know. Yeah, no, you're right, Mike. I'm sorry, the music's playing, so we got to go. But you made a powerful point. You've got forensic companies, digital companies, international companies, sworn affidavits, courtroom ready, and the opposition has nothing. And they cannot and will not do it. Instead, they just write their little books and trash you on the internet every day.
Oh, you know what? This song didn't come to an end yet.
I know. You're right. Folks, we got to bring this show to a close. We'll see you next Friday. God bless you. Thanks for listening.
American Survival Wholesale is proud to sponsor this ministry and their efforts to shed light on the issues that face our nation. As a veteran and Christian-owned and operated company, we support the freedom to express these Christian principles. We all understand the importance of being prepared. After witnessing the devastation of Hurricanes Harvey, Irma, and the wildfires that affected so many, please support this ministry by clicking on the link below and check out the amazing alt media package for our listeners. Plus, if you use the promo code PNN Radio, that's PNN Radio, you will receive free shipping, a savings of up to $200. Just click on the link below, but please do it today. Your support means so much to this channel.
The Satanists wanted to install their own tribute, a pagan idol, on the Capitol grounds, right next to the Ten Commandments.
Billions around the planet are witnessing a world in the grasp of sadistic spiritual darkness. This unholy alliance has infected our governments, our religious institutions, and our societies. The world appears to be unraveling. But can the evil behind these dark supernatural forces be defeated? Is everything playing out just as the Bible predicted it will in the final days? At last, you can know the answers to mankind's most urgent questions and learn your destiny among today's events in the new, unprecedented work taking the prophecy world by storm. Gods and Thrones, Nakash, Forgotten Prophecy and the Return of the Elohim by best-selling author, former decorated law enforcement officer, and senior pastor Carl Gallups. This changes everything. Available now wherever fine books are sold.